Monday night after Isha. And where's the location?
In Patterson, at Dunkin' Donuts, and Madison to Getty Ave.
Madison.
Let's get started. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So what we're covering today in attempt is going to be riba and gharar, which is usury and extreme uncertainty, or deception, or a lot of other names for gharar. I highly doubt we'll get to gharar, but if we don't, obviously inshallah we'll get to it next week. So very important, remember this ayah and never forget it. Surah Al-Baqarah. This is one of the most important ayah you'll ever know. 278, 279. 278, 279. Right? So Surah Al-Baqarah 278, 279, which gives you the prohibition for usury. And there's different types of usury, and the Prophet ﷺ has explained to us what the different types there are. Very clearly, in this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَذَرُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Allah says, O you who believe, in translation, O you who believe, who have taqwa in Allah, fear Him and remember that He is watching all that you do. This is what this means. This is the taqwa. It's a consciousness of Allah. It's recognizing that He's always aware of everything, every transaction you're doing, whether people know about it or people don't know about it. وَذَرُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَا. And give up what remains from riba, meaning abandon riba, that people, even if they still owe you that riba, and you were unaware, you're not allowed to take that part. You're only allowed to take the principal and what is rightfully due to you, what you loaned, or for example. إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. If you want to be considered as part of the believers. Very, very clear. And so here's something very interesting. The following says, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا. And if you decide not to stop dealing with riba, فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. This فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, one of the strictest things that he mentioned, who can tell me any other verse in the Quran that actually mentions that Allah will go to war with them?
I can't think.
Allah will go to war with them. Which verse? He doesn't say war. These people are cursed.
Hadith that says war. من عاد لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب.
That's very true. This is for the ones who are trying to harm Allah's awliya. Anyone who, there's only two cases where we know that Allah Azza wa Jal deemed war or declared war against them. This is one case where people are insisting, notice the difference, insisting upon dealing with riba. Because some people, in all fairness, they really don't know. When I first studied this years ago, and I would start telling my family, there's a lot of Muslim families out there in the United States who firmly believe buying your first house on riba is okay. Buying your first car on riba is okay. Everything, as long as you do is it's your first, it's fine. This is what they were. This is what they thought, right? And it's not. But alhamdulillah, with ilm, you wind up learning that. However, some people, after they learn, they still don't care. They still insist. Well, what are you going to do? There's tons of alternates which we'll see, but that's why Allah Azza makes it very clear. فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, that Allah Azza wa Jal will have declared war upon them and from His Prophet. Ibn Abbas said on the Day of Judgment, when everybody obviously is resurrected naked and everybody is scattered and very scared, running around as if they're drunk, but they're not drunk obviously. He said on that day, the Malaika will approach the person who dealt with riba, and they'll single them out and hand them weapons. They'll actually hand them weapons on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and they'll tell them, Allah is over there, go fight with him. Today you're going to have harb with Allah. That is a scary moment, man. It's bad enough. It's bad enough some people are in for the long run, for 50,000 years waiting, and the sun is only a short arm span away. It's bad enough that some people will be punished and repunished and repunished for that duration. And now you want the angels to single you out and hand you weapons and say, this is the day that Allah promised the war with you? Now you can't get any worse. Now everyone, by the way, has yaqeen in Allah and His messengers on the Day of Judgment. Yaqeen means firm, certain belief. Firm, 100% certain belief. Conviction. They're absolutely convinced and certain that the Day of Judgment, that Allah, that Muhammad, that Isa, that all those prophets before, their message was true, and they witness it. And now imagine getting weapons on that day. That is something very, very scary. That's why it's very important to understand this verse. So that's the crux of the matter. This is our guiding verse right here. Right? This is what was going to really hold us on the Day of Judgment to focus and remain focused. There, the Rasul ﷺ mentioned who is involved in riba, who winds up getting the la'na, the curse, because it's a major sin. Never forget this. This is a narration mentioned in Sahih Muslim. The Rasul ﷺ said, قال لعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم آكل الربا. The first, the one who takes it. آكل الربا. Some people say, oh, I'm just the borrower. I'm not the one who takes it. The one who gives it. The Rasul صلى الله عليه وسلم. ومؤكله. The one who takes it, the one who pays it, the one who takes it, the one who gives it. ومؤكله. وكاتبه. 3. Those people who actually record it, the one who records it. And 4, last but not least, and he said, وشاهده, the one who witnesses it. Okay? And then the Rasul ﷺ ended in وَقَالَ هُمْ سَوَاء. All of them take an equal share in that punishment. All of them take an equal share in that punishment. Okay, now, the one who takes it, this is obvious, this is like banks, loan sharks, I don't know, anybody who gives loans with interest, obviously. Okay, so banks, the one who gives it, meaning the one who pays it, those who are borrowing it. Those who are borrowing it. The people who record it, the scholar said, those are the notaries and the clerks. No? Notaries. Some went as far to say, this is the scary part, and this is why I'm going to put a little asterisk next to it. Real estate agents who create the contract. Some real estate agents in certain contracts, and this is where you have to be very careful, they actually prep the entire contract for you. Some of them, they do it as an extra service to kind of be very, like a customer-oriented type person, because I asked some of my friends who are in the real estate business, they said actually they don't have to prep that contract. Technically they don't. And what happens is in that contract, it mentions the bank, it mentions the interest rate, it mentions the closing cost, it mentions the HUD statement and everything you can think of, right? It documents everything. This couldn't be clearer than one who's recording it, right? So you got to be very careful, especially when the Prophet ﷺ said, hum sawat, that they're the same. And so last but not least, those who witness it, and some of them said, some of the scholars said, this is the lawyers, accountants, some even went as far, and again I'll put a ... as the IT people who facilitate it. Meaning if you're working for a bank, right, and you're the person responsible for connecting the servers and you're making those transactions take place, some of them even went as far to add this group here. Not all of them did, but a lot of them did. That's why they will tell you if you're working for one of these banks, you should find another job, okay? And this is why it's very important, because a lot of us here, we don't recognize it, but we wind up getting offers a lot of times from some of these banks. By the way, I want to make it very clear, differentiate between a bank and an investment firm. Everybody understand the difference here, right? Let me give you an example. Goldman Sachs is an investment company, right? Chase has an investment branch, wealth management branch, but their primary focus is a bank, right? Goldman Sachs, up until their deal with Apple, they were primarily a, obviously, investment firm, right? So you see the differentiation that would be here? One would kind of be in the gray area, the other one is absolutely clear, you're not allowed to work for them, right? Questions on that? Right? Yeah.
Question here. So here, if somebody like Sheikh says that you live in a country where it's not like Islamic country, so you don't have to worry about any jobs or anything that has to do with the law itself or how the life is going. You only have to worry about yourself, what you eat, what you wear, make sure it's all halal. And other than that, like the laws or anything that the way that people do the treatment and all that, you don't have to be worried about that because you're not living in an Islamic country. So here it's confusing. Like if you work for IT for a bank, then for every bank basically they do riba because there's no banks that don't do riba here, obviously.
Yep.
So do you just stay away from all banks, all of them?
Absolutely.
Or you say like it's America, it's not an Islamic country. So
no, so this is good question. So this is important. Whether you're an Islamic country or non-Islamic country, the rule's the same. You should not be working for this bank, period. Because HSBC has branches in Muslim countries just as much as they do here in America. It's not permissible to work for them. Right? And again, everything I'm telling you is the default ruling. You're always going to, and I said this at the beginning of the first class, you're always going to find a fatwa saying otherwise. Always. 100% of the time. Oh, you have some sort of necessity, is this. Whether you want to take that concession or not, the default is this. This is the default. Rasulullah made it very clear for us, right? Allah made it very clear, warned us about it, and the Prophet explained it to us even further.
So when you say work for them, is it only like one of these capacities? For example, what about a janitor who works there? Does that
all of it. Any income from that company, because all of their profits, the majority of their we look at how they're making money. All of their profits are based off of this major set. You see it? So whether you're an IT person is no different than the janitor. By default, both of those jobs are halal. It's just that you decided to be a janitor at Budweiser versus being a janitor at the local school. I'm just making that up, right? So it's, again, the company you work for has to be primarily a permissible company to work for. So companies in general, and we went over this and we'll go over it again after we cover gharar, after we cover extreme uncertainty, you'll see that certain companies are just not allowed to work for. Like there's a company called Porky, right? That it's all the majority of their business. Actually, I don't know what their portfolio is, but if somebody was to open it up and find out that 50-60% of their sales are selling swine products, pig-based products, obviously working for them is not allowed. If you look at Budweiser, right? Same thing. You look at Bank of America, same problem. You see, these are companies who are inherently, if you decided the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, oh, but I'm just the guy who sweeps. I don't know. It doesn't matter. These companies primarily, their actual focus is impermissible.
Well, what about like the case again with investment companies you mentioned before, like let's say Prudential, for example, where a good portion of their earnings may come from Midabel, but not all of it.
Yeah, so Prudential would be fine. And why? Because Prudential isn't primarily in the banking business. They're primarily in the wealth management and investment business and insurance, which has its issues. But nonetheless, none of them are as blatant, as bad as this. You understand?
Yeah, but is it like a clear cut? Because I have a friend who, like I'm a software engineer, he basically advised me to stay away from investment companies and banks, and I kind of took that advice to heart.
And you could stick with it because it's the safer approach. But like I said, if you're down to the wire and you had these last options only to choose from, obviously mitigate as much as you can and move away from the banks as much as you can. Okay? So, everybody clear about this? Now you'll understand the different forms it comes in. These are the folks and the people themselves. Now the actual transaction. Okay? The actual transaction. So these are the people. Very clear? This is the people. Oops. These are the people. Now the transaction. There's two types. There's called fadl and there's called nasi'a. Two types. I want you to never forget them. Why is this very important? If you guys focus on today, you'll understand all of the future ones that we're talking about once we go through your entire college process of your student loan, of getting married, of buying the house, the car, ... We're going to go through that life cycle. But right now, you just have to understand these two particular points. One, there's the fadl, which is increase or a decrease. You can make that out if you like. And then there's nasi'a. And so that would be a deferred. Deferred is two F's or one?
That should be one.
Okay. Deferred or delayed. Okay. All right. So deferred or delayed. This one here is fadl. This is an increase or decrease. This is typically happening in loans, exchanges. And this is typically happen gold. Okay? Silver. And as a side note, which all the scholars, majority of them agreed upon, is anything that substitutes them. Okay, so there's two categories of the 6. Those are 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. Okay, wheat, barley, salt, and dates. Wheat, barley, salt, and dates. Tamam. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The scholars broke them up into two categories. They said one is monetary, things that you use for payments and what substitutes for them, right? So Bitcoin would follow the same rule.
So the dollar, for example.
The dollar, silver, cash, right? Cash, the dollar, Bitcoin.
Basically any currency.
Currencies, right? Okay? There's a major difference of opinion over them. I'm not going to go into details because unless somebody tells me they're getting into the barley trading business, I'll get into the details, right? In short, some of them said that it's because they're foodstuffs. Some of them said it's because they're sold on volume. So things that are sold on volume and what replaces sales in volume, right? But they still have to be foodstuffs that are sold in volume, right? So when you sell dates, you don't sell dates by, I bought 22 pieces of dates. It's not like 3 for $1 type deal, right? Usually you buy the box, and you all know what we're boycotting, right? I publish this every Ramadan. We're all very clear, right? We're boycotting any Israeli type products. It's part of the movement, the least we could do. But nonetheless, you buy them by the pound, right? 5 kilograms, whatever you wind up seeing. And so you know, the California ones, they're fine, or the Tunisi ones. So these have a long difference of opinion. There are so many differences. Just know that if you're dealing with these, there's certain rules. Like what? I'm going to give you a few ground rules, never forget them, okay? The Prophet ﷺ, he explained that these items, if you're trading any one for its kind, so a like for a like, so if you're changing, there's 3 scenarios I want you to never forget. There's 3 rules when we look at these items. 3 rules. 1 is the quantity. 2 is the session. And 3 is the delivery. So 1, 2, 3. Okay? If you're doing gold for gold, never forget this, this goes for all of them. The same kind for the same species for the same species, or actually the kind, because this could be considered a species. The same kind for a kind, then it has to be, the quantity has to be the same. Okay? The session has to be immediate, and the delivery has to be immediate. Rasul said, al-yaddu bil-yad. Okay, let me give you an example. How many of you have gold? You own gold? Sisters, most of them do. By the way, you really should own gold, you guys. I'm not even kidding. It's a very, very good thing to have, especially when the economy is not that great. But nonetheless, let's say you have a bracelet and it's 20 grams of gold. It's 20 grams of gold. You go to the jewelry store, right? And you say, you know what, I'm so sick of this one. I just want a new one. One that I don't have yet. You're only allowed to exchange another bracelet or 2 bracelets or a ring and a bracelet that totals 20 grams of gold. You have to give it and take that one in the exact same setting. You're not allowed to delay the session. You're not allowed to delay the delivery. Give you an example. You came to the store. You said, this is my bracelet, right? And some jewelry stores, they trust you a lot. They'll say, okay, just take that one home. Bring me back the bracelet when you have it. That is actually haram. That is actually riba. You actually didn't even realize that because you delayed the delivery.
What's the difference between the session and delivery in that case?
So the session is the negotiation, the agreement. The delivery is of the items. So for example, I could walk into the jewelry store with a 20-gram weighing bracelet, and I could say, hey, I would like that one, which is 20 grams also. So can we agree? They agree, we sign a contract, and I walk away. I'll say, I'll bring it to you tomorrow. That's not allowed. Islamically, that is prohibited. There is a concession. I shouldn't even say a concession, it's not from the Prophet. There's a fatwa. There is a religious verdict in the Maliki madhab that allows, which by the way, I dislike following it personally, because I like to go by the default as much as possible, unless there's a real need. They allow up to 2 days on delivery. They did it for a reason though. When you read the old Maliki books, some of them, the merchants, they would come into town with like a wagon full of gold, right? And then he'd go and exchange it for the local currency or for silver, right? So when you're going to exchange, so let me do it this way. Kind, because I want to do it in a way you guys aren't confused. Because I remember when we were studying this, there were so many students who were confused. Kind for a kind. This is wrong. Kind for a kind, and then kind, and then group. Okay, let's do that. So, quantity, session, delivery. This one always takes long, but okay. Kind for a kind within a kind. The quantity can fluctuate. Within group, kind for kind. That's a good one. That's why there's three. Kind, and group, and then group. Okay, so if we're talking about kind for kind, and I'll give an example of silver for silver. This one will be gold for silver. Or actually, just to make it more practical, I'll say gold for dollars. And then for group, I'll say dates for dollars. Dates, dollars. Okay, so everybody understands that this is a group, this is a group. We're on the same page? A gold is a kind, right? And did I lose anyone there? And if I lost you, don't worry, tell me. Raise your hand, don't lie.
When you say group for group, do you
Yeah.
mean
Group within a group. So gold for wheat,
Oh,
dollars for wheat,
no. When you say
dollars for salt.
When you say kind for group, kind for group,
When I say kind for a group, that means within its own group.
but
So,
not the same kind.
what?
But not the same kind.
Maybe I should say group within same group, different group? What's better for you guys? Same group?
That's okay.
Kind for group should be fine.
Yeah, you made a good point. So, right, should I just say group 1, group 2? I don't know, right? So whatever makes sense to you. Kind for kind, silver for silver. Has to be same, same, same. Or immediate, actually, I should say. Immediate. Okay. So within gold for silver, the only one that can change is quantity, differ. This can differ. Otherwise, it's actually you're going to think differ then, which means. So immediate. Sorry, my handwriting. Okay, you get it, right? It looks it, right? And then group for group, everything can differ. Differ, or delay. Now, let's go over some scenarios. I'm going to test to see if you guys know what I'm talking about. All right. Example number 1. I'm going to exchange 10 grams, a 10-gram gold bracelet for a 8-gram Indian handmade gold bracelet. So this is example 1. I want you to tell me how that has to happen. Go ahead, you write that down. I'm doing example 2 here. Okay, do example 1. Okay, example 3. Okay. Who wants to start off with example 1? Teach the class. She raised her hand first. Go ahead.
Wait, so I have a question. So what are we saying?
Are you telling me this is allowed or not allowed? If it's allowed, how do we make it allowed? If it's not allowed, how do we make it?
Okay, so
Fix it.
I think it would only be allowed if it was 10 grams for 10 grams, and
But that's handmade.
so.
Good. Now, by the way, this is very important. You're gonna get sold by the jewelers because Indian handmade gold is more expensive. They sell it for a higher price, right? So then how do we fix that? The way that you can do it is break it up into 2 separate transactions. Sell your 10 gold bracelet, your 10 gram gold bracelet to the store, finalize that transaction, pay money for it. Don't just say, okay, now I have a credit with you for $400 or whatever it is. Don't do that. Make the transaction final, get that out of the way, and then just buy the 8 gram of gold Indian bracelet. Got it? That's how you solve that. Because you're gonna run into this a lot. I hope you never run into a situation where you have to sell your gold or anything like that, but you may come across this situation. I've seen it. Be very, very careful. I've even seen it in the sense where, for example, I was gonna buy my wife a gift once and I know the jeweler so well, he goes, oh, just take it and just give me the money later. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that, that's riba. Because what are you talking about? I'm just not gonna get into it. Just leave it here, clean it up for me, I'll go get my money and I'll work it out. So notice that it's not binding yet. Because the session, I didn't agree 100%, right? I didn't say, okay, don't sell to anyone else, we're agreed, that's mine. I didn't finalize the session. Pretty much means that if I don't come back, it's anyone's bracelet, right? So nothing's finalized. Okay, so are we clear on this example? Has to be the same. And the reason is it's because it's gold for gold. Now we have another scenario, right? You just want to buy 40 grams of gold, right? Yeah.
So they're both within the same group, the monetary group, but they're different kinds. So the quantity doesn't really matter. You can decide
And what does
upon that.
quantity mean? That means I don't have to put $40,000. Like for example, the quantity of dollars versus the quantity of grams of gold can differ. And that's obvious, right? That's different. But what about the session and the
It has to be immediate. You have to agree and deliver it immediately on the spot.
Correct. Yes.
But isn't this group?
So that's why I wanted to make. I asked you guys. Right? This was you. So I'll say group 1, group 2, okay, and then that's what we'll do. Group
1.
Yeah, group 1, group 1.
Oh, okay.
Aha. See? Group 1, group 1. Okay? So we're clear. Everybody think this is okay? Yes. What if you put it on your Amex? You see? On Amex. Now what?
Now it's maybe delayed, like it will take time.
Good job. You messed up the delivery. That's a problem. You're actually not allowed to buy it on your Amex. But you can buy it on a debit card. You can buy it on your debit card.
Is this only with gold or with any?
This is with any one of this category,
Gold, silver.
because this is the monetary category. So for example, technically, you should not be buying Bitcoin on your Amex.
What's an Amex?
What is an Amex? You don't have, well, it's American Express. Okay, mashallah. You went the strict no credit card route, huh?
Oh, I'm
Okay.
still not figuring out what American Express is.
Oh, really? Thank you. You want me to do? Okay, then go ahead, sit down and wait for me to be finished. We're almost done. She's my helper today, I brought a helper. She's been helping me all day, mashallah. Okay? Okay, so we're clear here. Anybody, any questions on this? Yes? That's exactly what the delivery means. The delivery of, this would be the payment in that case, right? Payment is the $1,500. So you cannot postpone that. You cannot take it on a payment plan. Correct. You can do that for everything except this category. You can do that for everything except this category. So you cannot do a payment plan for gold. You cannot do a payment plan for silver. Right? You can't do a payment plan for Bitcoin. Oh, here's another thing. I'll give you an example. This happens with people. You're going to be absolutely shocked. I have a $100 bill. I need 20s. So I'm in group for group. I need 20s. Okay? So you have 8 20s right now. right? Which is, you have 4, which is $80. You're like, here, and I'll give you the 20 just next week. Problem, you just engaged in riba. You see? You didn't even realize that. These small things that you don't even recognize. And this happened. I know this sounds absolutely silly, but I was outside of the masjid and I needed quarters to put it in the little meter thing. God forbid they would get a iPhone app to do it now, but most of them do. Alhamdulillah, Noor, they've got it. But I went inside and I told the guy, do you have change for $1? He goes, no, I have like 2 quarters. He's like, that's fine. Oh no, it was the opposite. Somebody asked me if I had change for $1. That's what it was. I was walking out of the masjid and I said, no, I only have 50 cents. I only had 2 quarters. And he goes, that's fine, just take $1. I was like, actually, I don't want your $1. Just take the 50 cents as a gift. I don't want it. You see you seen the difference?
But can't he give it to you, like, he's not expecting anything back. At that point, can't it just be like, it's, okay, no, it's not a gift at that point.
Because it's an exchange. It's an exchange. Versus, yeah, because I didn't loan him anything. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, oh believers, oh you believe, pay back your debts handsomely. Like somebody took the time to give you, loan you out money, it's nice.
Not a measurable amount, like there's actual amount of gold, and you're trying to trade that.
So some of the scholars said if it's inherently gold, then it's gold. If it has traces of it, it does not count as gold. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he had a cup. It was kind of like his favorite cup, a mug. And it cracked. And so he filled it, he had a person repair it and fill it with silver. See, and we know we're not allowed to drink from silver, gold utensils. It is forbidden for Muslims to do that. By the way, that is a very big wake-up call for you who get your wedding registries and your gifts. Some of you get those silver-plated spoons, they're like really high-end. Absolutely forbidden. Do not put them on the registry. Straight up go plastic at that point, you know? Yeah, big problem there. Since we're on the matter, you guys reminded me about it. Okay, so we're cool with this, everybody? Next, you go to...
How about, for example, a golden ring with a diamond in it?
Still gold.
Still gold.
Yeah. Okay, example number 3, and the value, by the way, is the value of the gold. Diamond doesn't even hold any value. So, the 10 kilograms of California dates, remember, we only buy, right? We're not buying the, right? We're not buying the Zionist dates. So 10 kilograms of California dates for $50. You walk into a store. Bad, not bad, good, good.
Good. You can pay with debit or credit.
Good job. Alhamdulillah. You can pay any way you want. You can put it on your little store credit. I've seen some people do that, put it on my tab. It's like very 1960s. I love when stores allow that. They were in a lot of debt and some people really rack it up. But anyhow, delay it, whatever you want, doesn't matter, right? Eat up all the dates, pay payment plan, doesn't matter. When you mix the two. Clear about this? Comments, concerns. Does this make more sense, group 1, group 2 type business? Because you're helping me when I teach future classes. It's like the 4th time I've taught this, but it's just, this is always, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so for college loans, so when we take a loan, college loan, that would be like the 3rd example, like they're giving us education and then we are paying them in the future.
No, absolutely not.
Something different, right?
Absolutely not. No, the crux of a student loan is money. That's what the intrinsic value of that contract is. So it is in this category, and because it's that category, and you're paying it back the same currency. So they loaned you $40,000. Let's play that example through. This is very practical for you folks. Example 4. Never forget, a loan falls under not an exchange. This is different, right? Now we're talking about a debt. We were going to cover that now, but you know, I always promise to be done by 5:30. People got to get ready for class, you know, study within the 20 minutes they have or whatever they do. I could tell you that that's the loaning system. That's a debt, right? So like if you paid me $500 for this iPhone, and I took a payment plan from you, that falls under debts where I cannot ask for more even if you're late with those payments, right? But we're going to cover loans.
Okay, we'll
But
get to that.
yeah, exactly. But a good point though, that falls under nasi'ah. What we're covering right now just so we're all on the same page, is this one. Everyone clear? We're falling under this one. Now I'm going to throw you all off. How many of you have heard of Forex? You have to. I mean, if you haven't, you got to read a little bit more, folks, because you have to be investment savvy people. What?
Foreign exchange.
Foreign exchange, good. So it's an online exchange type platform, Forex. So here's example number 4, we'll go with Forex. You decide to buy the euro and you give dollars. Now what do? What? That's fine. I mean, they do it for you. It's not like you negotiate with Forex, right? You decide to buy it or not. So you decide I'm gonna pump in $10,000 in, and I'm gonna exchange them to euros on this platform. What happens here? First of all, which scenario are we in? Are we in kind for kind, group for group, or group 1, group 2?
We're in group group.
We're in group 1, group 1, right? So let's start with the quantity. Can the quantity differ? Right? Yeah, because the euro could be worth more than the dollar is, right? What about the session? It's immediate. Obviously, when you hit transact, it's immediate. What about the delay? How many people have actually ever used Forex? So there is a delay. And there is a delay, it's a processing amount, sometimes 24 to 48 hours. This is where that Maliki fatwa comes in, and they use that fatwa to say it's allowed, and they do it because there's no other way to exchange this amount of money realistically. Right? If you had 100 grand sitting in your bank account, first of all, I'd like to get to know you better. Number 2, if you were trying to exchange that into euro, okay, you don't just bring a suitcase with $100,000 in the airport, right? That just doesn't work. Right? And if you wanted to exchange it, that would be also quite of a problem. No one's going to do that transaction immediately. There's a delay in any which way, type, shape, form you're trying to make that exchange. You're very clear? Even if you went to your bank, you went to Chase, PNC, Wells Fargo, doesn't matter. You said, I want to exchange this into euro. There is a processing time, right? Even though there is a fee for it. So this is where the scholars have allowed this type of transaction. Everyone clear about that? Right? I would highly advise you to stay away from this kind of stuff though, because it is straight gambling. You're just profiting off volatile markets, market fluctuations, but some people actually have studied it to a serious extent and they make a ton of money on it. But for the average person, I would say, personally, unless you have such a great deal of money where you're just investing in so many diverse different ways, then I could see you getting into this, but the default for us is that we don't need the Maliki fatwa right now. We could just stick with the default and we don't have to get into it. Yeah?
Is that for investing in foreign currency? Like investing somewhere else where that investment requires foreign currency, or?
This is an exchange of money.
So like if I'm traveling somewhere and I need that exchange.
Some people would make that argument. Other people are doing it for investment purposes. Like I believe, so I want you to imagine this so that we can talk financial terms right now, and then we'll unfortunately have to end here. And then we'll see if anybody has any Q&A. When you invest in Apple versus Google, right? You might think that Apple, over the next year, I studied their ROI, I studied what the CEO was saying, what kind of products are coming out. I believe they could possibly give me a 9% return over a year. I studied Google, I look at what they're doing, I believe they can give me an 8% return. When you look at this, this is where you want to invest your money. You start making this debate. Companies, right? You invest your money. There's also an investment at a larger scale, which is actually countries and continents. Those are for folks who are dealing with a little bit more cash than we're used to, nonetheless. So you could decide, I want to invest in the Great British Pound. I want to make investments in here. I believe the GDP of that economy is doing so much better than other countries. You understood that? So instead of keeping my money in a US bank account in a 0% checking account, very clear, right? You do not put your money in a savings account, ever, at all, ever, just ever, okay? And so instead of keeping it in a 0% US bank in dollars, I want to exchange it and let it hold in the Great British Pound currency, because I believe it's more secure. So that is an investment, so to speak, right? Based on market fluctuations. So they're doing this as an investment, very different than you would do it as a tourist if you went to Britain and you exchanged $100 for, 60 pounds, for example. You just need it to buy stuff there. These people are doing it because they want their investment to grow. They believe that's where it's growing.
So then does that apply for like owning property in other countries?
Does that apply for?
Like if you own property in other countries?
No. Why? Someone answer that. Based on what we talked about here, why does that not apply if you're buying property in other countries?
Kind. Group.
Good. Because you're dealing with group 1, and anything outside of these 2 groups you can delay, differ, everything can change. So literally you could go buy a desk, I don't care how much you sell it to me for, I don't care when we finalize the agreement, you go on eBay and bid on it for crying out loud for 5 days, and you could deliver it to me in a month. Doesn't matter. The only thing these 3 rules apply to, I want to be very clear, is these 2 categories. Everything else can fluctuate. Everything else you can delay delivery. If you're a person in the house building business, if you're in the gold building, if you're in the arts and crafts business, and I say, hey, I want you to build me a custom desk for my office, okay? How much do you want for it? Well, what's the measurements, blah, blah, blah. We agree on all that. Session is done. You say, I want $500 for it. I say, okay, here's a down payment of $100. Notice the quantity fluctuated, and I didn't even give you full payment up front. And I say, look, it's going to take me 6 months to make it. All gravy, no problem. Okay? Because it's not this. Very clear? Yes.
So the delay or delivery delay, like
Yeah.
if it's like as small as you leave the store, walk out to your car in the parking lot and bring it back. Like your money's in the car, you walk out there and you grab what you need to bring it
I don't
there.
know why you'd leave the money in the car.
Theoretically.
That's one. But if you were that guy who left the money in the car, don't be that guy though,
Okay.
obviously, right, please? That should be fine, because technically you're on the property grounds. You're still in the same session, right? You're still in the same session. It's not like you drove home, you went under the second mattress. I don't know where people hide it, right? So anyhow, good? Understood?
Yes.
This really lays the groundwork for next week. I thought we were covering qada. Clearly we're not. Okay? But next week, inshallah, what we will cover, to give all of you an example, is the following. Debating if I should do qada first and then the actual examples. Let me just think real quick. No. We can actually do the examples. So next week, inshallah, we will be covering, and then hopefully we could get into qada. We're going to be covering student loans, car loans, and home loans. Any other types of things you guys engage in that I might not know about? These are usually the big 3. No? Good. These are cover it. Pretty much some summarizes things. Mahar loans. Some girls are really asking for it. We ought to put that up here. Yeah, people don't realize that. When you do a deferred mahar, it's a debt. It's a debt, unless it's a contingent debt. Some people say only if you guys have a divorce do you pay her $50,000 or I don't know. Then you know you're not divorcing. That's just how it goes. It's through thick, thin, and broke and not broke. So it's going to go through. All right. So these 4, inshallah, we'll cover next week. So for those people who want to see the actual practical, they may be a little confused when we're covering them, but for those of you who are here, we can kind of fill them into this, right? We got a cool chart. Like, this is the chart. I've never done one of these guys. And I'll probably use it for future ones. Okay? Good?
So
Yes.
the student and the car and the home loans are fadl or the other kind, the nasiya. Nasiya, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna be talking about nasiya.
Yeah, so today we went over Fadl, next week will be Nasiha. Good? Yes? Okay. Any other questions? قولي هذا استغفر الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم.
So